go for a little jaunt here. So this is my old neighborhood where I grew up, and got a lot of fond memories here. This is 34th Avenue. You used to go from the airport over to Hiawatha, and now they've got a detour because they've got a lot of building down there. But I remember when this road was really much narrower than this, and this is Minnehaha Creek up here, goes through here. It starts over Lake Minnetonka and comes all the way through the city. Over the years, many times, we've taken canoes down there. It always seemed like every time I ever took a canoe down that creek, I always ended up with a bunch of band-aids on my face. Us guys would tip over the canoe, and anyways, here's Minnehaha Parkway, and about a half mile from here is Michaelosn. That's where I used to work when I was. I started working there when I was 16 years old. They've a lot of changes in this neighborhood. I remember one of our school teachers at the Michaelosn lived there. I believe he had 9 children, and he was a pretty strict teacher, but I really liked that guy. I can't remember his name anymore. Up here is, how you doing there? Is one of my favorite parts that we used to hang out. Go to the theaters. There's a theater that was here, it's called the Leola, and we used to go there on the weekends, and which would be right in here. If we go to the matinees where they had the cowboys and Indians and movies and Tarzan and all the real cool movies that we used to go to. Spent a lot of time there. And over to my right here, there's these places called Marty's, and they kind of fix it up for his kids. And if I remember right, you could get 5 hamburgers for $1. They've changed this area a lot. They've added that liquor store. There used to be a shoe store over here. Right behind me was a place where it was a drugstore. So that was the old bowling alley that I used to work at, and I got like 10 cents a game. And that's when you pin set the pins by hand. And I remember one time my first check was like $3.50. I went and got a tattoo with that money. And boy, my parents were not very happy about that. But a lot of the old houses are still here from back in the past. The Michaelosn School was over to my left down the block, and they've tore that down now, and they have like a retirement home. I remember this used to be a small little store here, and as kids, this little hill we're going up here. I remember us guys pouring oil on the tracks, the streetcar tracks. So the streetcars would have a pretty hard time getting up that hill. We did a lot of mischievous things when we were kids. The post office over here, that was not when I was young. That was not here. And the Michaelosn Hardware over here, that was a small grocery store. And we were kids, we used to go around collecting pop bottles, and I think we got a penny or 2 cents a bottle when we returned them there, so that was kind of cool. We would bring those bottles over there and then get candy and ice cream. So they tore down a lot of the old big trees, and since then they replaced these trees. And you can see the overgrowth that's really starting to look nice here. It's a nice old neighborhood. Now down here, I've been coming the next block up. I have a lot of memories here. First, where you could come in and pick up the pants that were on the floor, dog food and things like that. And they also had the ladders in here that you climb up to get the breakfast food, and that was pretty cool. I remember those steps right over there. I would sit at those steps when I was a young boy and actually write down license numbers. I don't know why I collected license numbers, but I used to collect license numbers. And across the street here, which is now a Goodyear store, that was Mike's Purell. Us kids, we hung down there for a very young age. And as we grew up, we started getting involved in racing. And one of the cool things about this block was back in the day when this street would come to the airport. If you follow it straight down, run right into the small airport. And when celebrities would come to town, like WCCO would say, "Oh, Elvis Presley's come to town," or the Beatles. Well, let me tell you, I've stood right on this corner and I've seen Kennedy, I've seen Nixon, and I've seen Eisenhower come in parades down here. And this was just like a small little town to us in this area right here. And it was also the end of the streetcars. That's where they were, at the end of town, they would back up there and then come around and go back downtown. But as I walked down the street, many times, hundreds of times, I've gone down the street out to the airport. I used to go out and watch the airplanes fly and come in. They would come right down at a very low altitude, which brings up another story. But first, this was the drugstore here, and this was at the time was Cloggy's Bar, which was a pretty popular place, drinking place. I remember when they had the old, right here, they had the old shack where our paper shacks, like our papers, we drop them off and they would get delivered. There used to be a Baptist church here, a little old Baptist church we used to go to when we were kids. One interesting thing here is this. I'm stopping right now. This used to be Allard's, right here, grocery store. And as you see over to the right, you see these three houses that look newer. Well, that used to be an empty lot there. And why it is, well, what happened back in 1944, my brother and I were standing out in our front yard, and we actually saw this airplane come in. It was a military plane with troops on, and one of the motors was on fire, and it turned around, tried to make it back to the airport, and it could not make it, and it ended up crashing there. Everybody was killed on board. Nobody was hurt on the ground. If I remember right, a couple of garages were burned in the back. I've seen pictures of that over the years. But anyways, that's the reason those houses look different from all the rest of the houses around here. And on the corner here, that used to be a grocery store for many years, and since then they've changed hands many times with different restaurants and things like that. And I remember the American Legion here, they used to have, for Halloween, we used to have parties for kids. We'd dress up and they gave candy out. It was really a super neat neighborhood. There was just a ton of kids in this neighborhood. I remember Denny Johnson lived in this house over here, which was a very good friend of mine. I hung out with him for many years. And one of my favorite spots was right here. And that's because we used to have a swamp. We had a little swamp and a big swamp. Down here to catch frogs and snakes and play down there and just be kids like kids should be kids. And it's actually a corner right up here. Well, here, these little places here, I remember when they built this, they called them chicken coops. And the stewardess used to have big old chickens out front over there. But anyways, back to here, this was a farm here. When I first moved out here. And then they turned it into the Arrow drive-in. And that was one of the first drive-ins where they actually had speakers where you could order your stuff as you were coming in. And they had the Strataburger, real big hamburger, and the gentleman that owned it, he was a pilot for Northwest Airlines. And if you go forward up here, cross around, that was not here. This is basically a military base here that was very active during the war times. So right where Crosstown is now, that was a drive-in restaurant, and I got a pretty good story there. So we knew all the girls that worked there, and one night they were all complaining on how much money they were not making. They weren't making enough money. So we convinced these girls that they should just walk off the job. So they walked off the job, and when they were all gone, we went and knocked on the back door and said, hey, we'll work here for nothing. All we want is food. So we got hamburgers and french fries and all that. And guess what? Them girls were so mad at us, the next day they come back begging for their jobs. Anyways, a lot of fond memories. The airport used to be a little airport that was straight ahead, and we could walk right to the airport. Good times, good times. I love this neighborhood.